International Jazz Day. In the studio with us is the Imkwazana Ensemble. We'll have a chat to these guys. But before we get the show on the road, Anid's got to do the news. Let's tell you what's coming up in the program. This is Newsroom. Hello and welcome from Johannesburg in South Africa. I'm Sam Marshall. This show is live and broadcast from our studios in Auckland Park. We're also streaming live on YouTube with the entire show available on our YouTube channel. Police have arrested more than 80 people in the Tembelihle informal settlement south of Johannesburg. It's been reported that more than 60 of those arrested are illegal immigrants. We find out more. A unique book that gives insight into relationships tackles the controversial topics such as why men cheat and are you his number one. We speak to the author. And it's Nedbank Cup time. We talk fashion and life-changing opportunities. But first, let's get the day's news with Anim Domel.
Good morning, I'm Anim Domel. Let's just have a look at the stories making headlines today. Police have arrested more than 80 people in Tembelihle informal settlement south of Johannesburg. It's been reported that more than 60 of those arrested are illegal immigrants. Tembelihle has been identified as a hotspot for violent criminal activity. The raid is expected to continue into the afternoon. The exact cause of the Denver train crash has still not been confirmed. Passenger rail agency PRASA said yesterday that the driver had passed a red warning signal, and Parliament's Portfolio Committee on Transport said the crash could have been a result of negligence. Passengers injured in Tuesday's Metro Rail train crash can still register for compensation today at the Pretoria or Park station. The deadly train crash left one person dead and over 200 injured. Chairperson of the South African Human Rights Commission, Lawrence Mshwana, has confirmed that his office is receiving threats. This after it started investigating Zulu King Goodwill Zwelithini. The African diaspora and at least 23 individuals have asked the Commission to investigate the king following allegations that his remarks had partly led to xenophobic attacks. Mshwana says they have identified an individual who made threats against the Commission staff members. Meanwhile, the International Criminal Court in The Hague has received a complaint of alleged hate speech against the Zulu King. The High Court in Pretoria is expected to rule on a case of assisted suicide today. The court will most likely give a ruling on whether a doctor can be prosecuted if he assists a patient to die. Robin Stransham-Ford is asking the Pretoria High Court to help him end his life by euthanasia or assisted suicide by absolving the doctor who assists him to die from criminal or civil prosecution. Stransham-Ford is suffering from terminal prostate cancer. Thuli Madonsela has been accused in Parliament of working hand in glove with the Democratic Alliance. Yesterday, the public prosecutor faced a hostile reception at Parliament's Justice Committee when she arrived to present her strategic plan and budget. Madonsela was nearly sent packing as some members demanded she answer to issues they had raised last year. The public prosecutor was told her plans were substantially deficient. She responded that all the issues that were raised have been answered. And a South African couple trapped in Nepal could soon be brought to safety. Aid organisation Gift of the Givers will make arrangements today for a helicopter to rescue the two South Africans. 30 South African humanitarian workers are assisting in the massive international relief operations in Nepal. They arrived yesterday and immediately began helping to search for survivors of Saturday's earthquake. Remember, you can find all of those stories on our Newsroom Facebook page. Just search for Newsroom. You can also follow us on Twitter at SABC Newsroom. Sam, over to you.
Thanks, indeed. Now, the meeting of heads of state of the Southern African Development Community in Harare has agreed to make industrialization a priority. President Jacob Zuma briefed the leaders about the attacks on foreign nationals in Durban and Johannesburg.
The extraordinary summit was convened with one agenda in mind, but by special request from South Africa, its brief to regional leaders about the recent xenophobia attacks was also added to the agenda. SADC leaders resolved to work together to ensure that the violence does not recur.
They recognize the fact that these people originate from their countries because of the problems. I think what was alluded to by a number of speakers was that perhaps what we are doing now, because they accept that the development in other countries is not as great, that what we are doing now in terms of industrialization, that could go a long way to meet the kind of problem. I don't think we could talk about what is happening in their countries. That's not necessarily our business to do so.
With the industrialization strategy and roadmap adopted, the summit directed the SADC Secretariat to finalize the development of a costed action plan.
For now, it was important to agree first on what is it that we think is our plan to industrialize. Now, once that is agreed, the next step is then the details as to where do we get the funds and how do we organize funding for the programs that we're going to have.
The strategy also aims to integrate SADC's markets by lowering tariffs and ensuring that every member country produces goods that can be traded. The roadmap runs to 2063, a similar timeframe to the African Union's Agenda for Continental Industrialization. Currently, SADC member states' intertrade remains at a paltry 10%, while its trade with Asia Pacific and the European Union constitutes 45% and 27% respectively. In other summit business, Zimbabwe handed to SADC the keys and title deeds to the regional peacekeeping training center located in Harare. The center has been pivotal in maintaining security and political stability, including in the training of the SADC standby force. Shingai Nyoka, SABC News, Harare, Zimbabwe.
Starting with our top story this morning, police have arrested more than 80 people in the Thembelihle informal settlement south of Johannesburg. It's been reported that more than 60 of those arrested are illegal immigrants. Police say Thembelihle has been identified as a hotspot for violent criminal activity. To give us the latest, we have on the line, we're joined by police spokesperson Lieutenant K. Makubela. Lieutenant, thank you very much for joining us here on Newsroom. Just set the scene for us. What is currently happening? You started this raid in the early hours of the morning. Just give us a sense of things on the ground.
Yes, indeed. We started the operation early in the morning, around about 2 o'clock. Up to now, we are still at the area. The police, the soldiers, as well as the Home Affairs officials and Metro Police and other units from the police. We had gathered around the Thembelihle where we secured the place, and we make sure that we raided the places where we got the information that there are criminal activities which are taking place.
So now more than 80 people have been arrested since you started that operation at 2 o'clock this morning. You also have Home Affairs along with you. Just give us a sense or a breakdown of how many of them have been arrested for being illegal in the country, and how many of them have been arrested for any other acts of criminality or potential criminality.
As we are still at the scene, we are still continuing with our operation. The number is escalating. At the moment, it's more than 100 suspects arrested, and among them, more than 70 were illegal immigrants, and the others are the ones who were found in position of dacha, position of dangerous weapon, as well as position of unlicensed firearms.
You said that you've arrested more than 100 people. From a perception that it is a hotspot for violent criminal activity, you had a tip-off from the community, or is this an ongoing police investigation, sir?
Well, our crime intelligence, they are on the ground. They are the ones who are leading us to identify places where there are criminal activities. And we went in and conducted the operation and make sure that those people who are doing those activities are removed from the society.
How is that operation being conducted? Is that a door-to-door?
Yes, indeed, it's a door-to-door. As we got the addresses where these people are residing who are committing these crimes, and then where are the illegal activities taking place, those are the places which were targeted.
Okay, that's Lieutenant Colonel K. Makubela on the line talking to us from the Tembelitha informal settlement, where police started a raid on that informal settlement at 2 o'clock this morning. As you were saying, nearly over 100 people have been arrested for various things, from being illegally in the country to contraband and issues related to drugs and illegal weapons. Now, thousands of Southern Africans with albinism have faced discrimination and abuse for most of their lives. They are often regarded as unnatural and even cursed. Albinism is an inherited genetic disorder in which the body fails to produce enough melanin. All over East Africa, people with albinism have been attacked, mutilated, and even killed for their body parts due to a belief that they can be used as good luck charms. Albinism affects 1 in 20,000 people. On Saturday, people living with this disorder in South Africa will embark on a march to highlight their plight. Today in studio from Albino Society of South Africa, we are joined by the members Mokhitla Moziolo and Tato and Ntando Kolezwa. Gentlemen, good morning. Thank you very much for joining us here in studio. Let's talk about this march. What are some of the issues that you hope to address, starting with you, sir, Mokhitla?
Thank you so much, sir, and thank you for having us on the studio. So, what purpose of this march is just to raise our frustration to say, since we past few weeks, as we can see in South Africa, we are faced with this very serious challenge of the xenophobic attacks. And then now our concern as members of the what you call Albinism Society of South Africa, we are raising our concern to say, if these people are killing our brothers and sisters in large numbers in that what you call African continent, so in South Africa, are we safe enough? Because they are coming in our country in large numbers, which we are not sure whether they are here legally or illegally and stuff like that. So now we want to feel free in our country, so we are urging to the government to take care of us and address this issue as we are going on the 13th. It is albinism, what you call the World Albinism Day, where we are going to engage with the government to say, let's have a dialogue with these people from outside our country to discuss this issue, to say, in our country, what is it that the government can do us to secure us, because we need to be safe in this country.
And then let me bring you into that conversation. What is it that government can do to make sure that people that suffer from albinism is safe and that people also are educated?
Yes, just let me thank this opportunity that is granted to me this morning. First of all, before I can just answer to your question, we are standing against the attack and the xenophobic attacks that are at large in our country. We are not promoting it, we are against it. But just to answer to your question, we feel that our government is not doing enough for people with albinism. There are plenty of things that we can make mention. I think we can talk about those things for the whole day, but I'm just going to line up 1 or 2 things. Yeah. Particularly at the schooling environment, the young children that are with albinism, I think the educators need to be educated as to how to deal with a child with this disorder. A mere example, a person with albinism, it's very difficult for the child to see at the chalkboard. Now, in order for our country to be educated and to accommodate people with albinism, I think education and awareness need to be spread around the country.
Why South Africans and Africans, why do we still know so very little about albinism as a disorder? We know that this is globally, it's an issue that people have talked about around the world. You've got an international day, Mokhitla, but yet people are not doing enough to educate themselves about people living with this disorder. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, the challenge is that the government needs to prioritize. As we know, all in what you call in 12 months, we've got different what you call celebrations in any month. So in September, we are thinking that the government should invest more in making sure that they prioritize September as an albinism month to give us a platform where we can move from door to door to every institution to ensure that we educate people about albinism, because we don't have enough platform where we can express and try to educate people about albinism. That is where we are lacking. So now we are urging to the government to say, let the government to be involved in making sure that education is a key with people with albinism.
And I know after you as a society, as an organization, you're engaging with other people that suffer from this disorder. When you have those dialogues, your round tables, and some of the issues, the challenges come up in the conversation, what are some of the things that people living with this disorder face on a daily basis?
We are facing a lot of discrimination amongst albino people. One, there are the myths that are roaming around the country, particularly based on the people who are living with a disorder. There are these myths, just to align my statement with what Mukhitla has just said. People need to be well educated that when we are dead, we are not disappearing. Now, some of those things that makes the people not to be educated enough about people who are living with albinism is that we don't have a platform whereby we can express these things and educate the community and the societies at large.
You've got the march coming up, Mukhitla. What are you expecting? How many members? We've already talked about what the aim and the issues are of the march, but how many people are you expecting in numbers to support this cause, and from where to where will you be marching?
From South Africa as a whole, we're expecting plus minus 2,000 people that will be attending the march. We are urging with all the stakeholders. We are not saying only people with albinism must come and gather with what you call us. So we are saying to each and every individual who is in South Africa, they must come and understand exactly who are we and our frustration. So our march will be at Johannesburg. We will be gathering at Piers Nodia Square, known as Library Gardens, to number 187 Bay Street. So it's where we are going to hand over our memorandum. So, but we'll be gathered at Library Gardens at Piers Nodia Square. So we are urging people, those who want to know more about what you call, our numbers are there appearing on the screen for more information, because we are expecting a lot of people, and we are expecting even the business people just to be involved, because as much as we are saying we are expecting a lot of people just to get refreshment and stuff like that. So everybody please be on part and then be on time, so that when we start marching, everybody will be on place. Thank you.
Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us here in the studio and talking to us about World Albinism Day, which will be happening this weekend. And, of course, you can join that march as well. Let's just take a look at your tweets. Please remember to send us your views on Twitter at SABC Newsroom. Let's take a look at it very, very quickly. It says, my heart goes to those who are in Nepal. Be strong, hashtag Nepal earthquake. And that's from Unkunur Shafika. From floods, it says, my heart and prayers go out to everyone affected by the earthquake in Nepal. You would have seen in Janji Chowcare. We'll play you a package a little bit later. He's there with Gift of the Givers. Nearly 30 South Africans heading there to help out. Tirgan says, hashtag Tirgan, praise for all those affected by hashtag Nepal earthquake. And I think this is our final one. It comes from Cassidy Ray, who says, listening to the news, hashtag Nepal earthquake, such sad news. Prayers for the safety of all those affected. And today's picture of the day comes from Jessica Gonzalez. It's an incredible image to show a baby being rescued 22 hours after the deadly Nepal earthquake. Take a look at this. Okay, let's now take a look at the front pages from around the globe. Starting in Israel, the Jerusalem Post. Israel opened a field hospital in Kathmandu yesterday to help treat thousands of Nepalese injured on Saturday's massive earthquake, and its rescue teams continue to comb the rubble for survivors. Then we move to the USA. The Washington Post reports that according to a police document, detained by the Post, a prisoner in a separate compartment of the same Baltimore police van as Freddie Gray, told officers he heard Gray banging against the walls in efforts to try and injure himself. And the International New York Times reports that a secondary school in northeast France has sent a 15-year-old student twice in 2 weeks for wearing a long skirt that the principal judged as an ostentatious sign of the girl's Muslim faith. Nepal's earthquake victims are becoming frustrated as the international relief operation struggles to help the tens of thousands of people who need food, water and shelter. A team of 30 South African humanitarian workers under the banner of NGO Gift to the Givers arrived in Kathmandu yesterday to help the search for survivors of the quake, which has left more than 5,200 people dead. We received the latest on the situation from our reporter with the team, Janji Chowke. Take a look at this.
Search and rescue operations got off to a slow start this morning. It's actually raining here in Kathmandu. Joining me to tell us a bit more about search and rescue operations today is Ahmed Bam of Gift of the Givers. Ahmed, good morning and thanks for joining us once again. Tell us what will be the focus today and maybe just give us more details regarding some of your challenges since your arrival here.
Plans for today regarding the search and rescue team would be we've obviously all reported to the Joint Operating Center, which is based here in Kathmandu, for all teams coming in. We've suggested to them that we will assist them in Kathmandu, where we're going to split the team into 2 teams that are going to go into some of the buildings that have been collapsed here and have not yet been searched. So our search and rescue teams will go there, they'll assess the buildings, see if there's any alive people there, survivors. If not, they'll just see if they can identify bodies. Challenges that were faced is a lot of equipment have been left in Singapore, where we're trying to get our equipment, search and rescue equipment, some of it back here by today or tomorrow. But it's not just us. Overall, a lot of rescue teams' equipment have been left at various airports all over the world. That's few of the challenges you're facing. One of the big challenges today is you can see the weather, the rain, that plays a big part in it, so that will hamper search and rescue operations. Another facet to the search and rescue operation is the 2 South Africans that are stranded in Rangawi area. We've actually trying to charter a helicopter to go and fetch them so we can bring them to Kathmandu and keep them with us and then facilitate their safe transport back to South Africa. Challenges again is the weather to try and get a helicopter, as well as to hire helicopters here because of the disaster and such high demand. They're so busy.
Okay. There you have it from Ahmed Bam of Gift of the Givers. Yesterday we saw search and rescue operations hitting the ground running. They went to one of the collapsed buildings to try and retrieve the body of a 27-year-old man. We'll be giving you more details as and when it happens from here in Kathmandu.
Our SABC reporter Janji Chowke with Gift to the Givers in Nepal. Let's take a look at what's happening around the country today. We start in Pretoria, where the High Court is expected to rule on whether a terminally ill 65-year-old man will be granted doctor's help to commit suicide. Former advocate Robin Stransham Ford was diagnosed with terminal prostate cancer in 2013. Then in Kimberley, the parents of the 3 expelled Landbou High School pupils will appeal the expulsion in the Northern Cape High Court today. The boys were expelled last week after being accused of raping a fellow pupil earlier this year. And then in Bloemfontein, Basic Education Minister Andrew Motshekga is officially handing over the 100th Accelerated School Infrastructure Delivery Initiative at Kroonstad this morning. That's where we leave Newsroom for now. We take an ad break. You don't go anywhere.
In Africa, mobile devices are tools to make payments, browse the internet, and keep governments in check with social media forums.
It's given an average African too much power in their hands.
And tech creativity is solving some of the continent's problems.
Everything is internet driven.
And on Network, we tell you how Africans are using technology and social media in their everyday lives.
Join Siphumelele Zondi on Network every Sunday at 19:30 CAT.
Welcome back. You're watching Newsroom. Thank you for choosing to stay with us now. First-time author Linda Yende, who is popularly known as Uncle L to his fans, has urged over the past 2 years to put his words from his advice columns into a book, and as a result, Wake Up Woman was born. A unique book that gives insight into relationships, tackling controversial topics such as why men cheat and are you his number one. This is no manual or self-help book for any relationship, but rather helps you notice things about yourself and your relationships. He joins me in the studio this morning. Uncle Al, I think you want to cause a lot of issues in relationships.
Not at all, actually. Not at all. I think I'm helping people take stock more than anything. People are sort of able to take a step back and say, you know, there's a lot of things that guys in particular don't get around to discussing. Because you know how guys are. We don't want to be all touchy-feely. Leave me alone with all the relationship discussions and whatnot. So I've sort of given the guy's perspective. I've given the male perspective.
So you have shared our secrets, our codes. You've taken our secrets, our discussions, and shared it with women.
No, not even. I think it's just more a case of this is how we feel when such happens. This is what.
So they can understand.
This is how you make us feel. There's a lot of guys who obviously look at the book initially with that sort of perspective that you're thinking now. And then after reading it, they go, you know what? You're actually speaking on our behalf. You're speaking on our behalf. You're saying a lot of things that we can't say, that we haven't been able to say. So, you know, guys that have read it have enjoyed it. Just as much as the ladies, obviously.
Let's talk about that stuck in relationships, because I do think it's an important thing to talk about.
Sure.
The sexes still seem to not be able to communicate properly.
Yeah.
That issues around relationships, and it's funny, whether it's you or me or your friends across the table, that generally we have the same relationship issues.
Yeah.
How do you, or your insight on something like communication, when a woman says, we need to talk, the immediate reaction is that it's negative or it's bad.
Yeah, true. See, this is the thing, is there's so many things that we wish we could actually convey to them as well. But we're battling to kind of cross this divide. We speak very different languages. You know the whole men are from women, men are from Mars, women are from Venus. That thing is, there's a lot of truth in that, because we speak in ways that we, for some reason, I mean, if I speak to guys about a concern, they'll immediately understand what I'm talking about and where I'm coming from. But I speak about it to a lady and she totally loses me. So let's take a very simple thing. We're driving in a parking lot, and she goes, there's a parking space. Immediately, I mean, I'm tempted not to even take that parking space, because it kind of feels emasculating. Why does she have to tell me where to park? Let me be the man and do my thing. Do you know what I mean? It's little things like that. And a guy will simply respond by saying, don't tell me what to do. And he'll go out there and he'll find his own parking spot. Whereas, if he was communicating in her language, then he'd say, baby, when you do that, you make me feel incapable. You're making me feel like...
And we're not discussing the parking spot.
Precisely. It's not about the parking spot at all. So, similarly, I mean, I'm trying to speak to ladies and say, if we could, these are the things we would tell you as guys.
Why Wake Up Woman?
It's an interesting thing. I mean, in the intro you mentioned that the whole book came about because I used to get a lot of inboxes and whatnot on social media from ladies, and they'd be responding to things that I had spoken about. But more often than not, they'd be coming in saying, listen, how do I deal with this situation? I've got this problem. I've got this happening in my life and whatnot. How do I deal with it? And it got frustrating to a point where I could sometimes, I felt like grabbing this person and saying, wake up, woman, don't you see you're being taken advantage of? Don't you see this is not a relationship, because she's sitting there talking about my man, and she's talking about a guy she hasn't seen in 4 months, and she's calling him her man. Do you know what I mean? So it was a bit of frustration in that process when I was saying, wake up, woman. But I've also just found that it's become a provocative thing. It makes somebody sit up and say, geez, I want to hear what this guy's saying.
So you're trying to facilitate a smoother relationship between men and women?
Absolutely.
By understanding the man. Why do men cheat?
Ooh, okay. The simple answer is because they can find somebody to cheat with.
Okay.
Guys are not out there cheating with other men. They're cheating with ladies. Well, some are, I suppose.
Well, you know, there's this argument that if men cheat and women don't cheat, who are men cheating with?
Who are men cheating with, precisely.
Yeah.
So they are finding an audience. They are finding somebody to cheat with. But more than anything, guys do it for their ego. It's an ego boost. It makes them feel like macho, more of a man, whatever. So, you know, I mean, that's a simplistic view of the whole process. But very rarely do guys cheat because there's something lacking in his woman. And that's the bit I want to get across in the book, that women often immediately think it's something wrong with her. She decides she's going to start hitting the gym, she's going to start doing this because the guy cheated on her. So I'm trying to just make them understand that, please, stop blaming yourself. He was attracted to you as you are. Fundamentally, it's wrong. It's
but
his
there's
problem.
more to it, you're saying?
Yes. There's so much more to it. It's not you. Okay. It's not you. It's very rarely you.
How have women reacted to that? And I think that's quite a controversial statement, because a lot of women are going to say, you're trying to justify why men are even interested in other women, but the reality is it's just wrong.
No,
Finish and clear.
Far from it.
I don't want to hear anything more. It's wrong. How have women reacted to that particular
Oh, no, I mean,
comment?
they totally get it, because very often women are left wondering, what is it that I did wrong to make this man cheat?
That it's
what
emotional.
Is it that I didn't do? What is it that I could have done differently and whatnot? And I'm saying, stop blaming yourself. It's not you.
It's physical.
He's the problem.
Okay.
He is the problem. His greed, his selfishness, his little boy wanting to sort of prove himself to his mates, to his little ego, to whatever, is what made him cheat.
What is the other controversial thing, very quickly, in the book?
Oh, gosh, there's so many. I think one of my favorite topics in the book is where I talk about a relationship contract.
Yes.
Where I say, effectively, women nowadays are not waiting for guys to ask them out. They're just making it so easy. You have a couple of phone calls, speak on WhatsApp, and suddenly he's referring to you as my babe, and then it's almost an assumption that you are in a relationship.
Yeah.
Which is quite silly, because the day you find out that he has somebody else, you've got no leg to stand on. He'll say, I don't remember asking you to be my girlfriend.
Okay.
You're not. So it would be nice if you could have a relationship contract. You know, it's a theoretic thing. It's not an actual contract.
I would love to see how that would work. So on the first day, you flip out this document,
no, I mean
you go through point 1A.
Not quite, but just have a discussion about, look, this is what I'm looking for from you.
For sure.
And
no, I understand what you're saying.
Similarly, you know, I mean, not an actual
I'm just
contract.
worried that there are women walking around with relationship contracts now, and men as well, saying, okay, I like you, but let's talk about point 1A over here.
These are the deliverables. these are your KPIs.
What is your SWOT analysis in this relationship? Your strengths, weaknesses. Okay.
Yeah.
We're going to leave it there. Interesting book. I'm sure a lot of people will be picking it up. It's first-time author Linda Yende, known as Uncle Al. He's put out a book. It's going to be an interesting discussion. It's called Wake Up Women. It's available in all good bookstores. And it's a man's perspective, from a man's perspective, enlightening women on just what is your guy thinking when he's quiet. Let's take a look at your tweets. You can please remember to send us your views on Twitter at SABC Newsroom. It's from Pete Walsh, who says, the only black man that must have loved apartheid. That's hashtag Kebo Dlamini. Then from Rory Sang, it comes from interesting how we get told. From Kebo Dlamini, he loves Hitler, not what he loves about Hitler. Those two issues v different implications. Revolution Song, it says, I don't think hashtag Dlamini should be suspended or expelled or anything of the sort, but I just wish he could just apologize. And this from O.B. Joseph, who says, South Africa signed a constitutional law. People have freedom of speech. Kebo Dlamini must be left alone. Okay, so today's tweet of the day is from Charlene McCrae on the Nigerian girls that we rescued. My heart rejoices with the rescue of 200 girls and 93 women from Boko Haram. Those still missing will not be forgotten. It's a hashtag Bring Back Our Girls. Now let's take a look at what's happening on your Newsroom Facebook page today. Public Protector Thuli Madonsela has been accused in Parliament of colluding with the Democratic Alliance. Madonsela spent more than 3 hours dodging insults from ANC members of Parliament and the chairperson of the Committee on Justice. Then the Southern African development community leaders have applauded South Africa for briefing them on recent xenophobic attacks that left 7 people dead and thousands displaced in KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng. And then the United Nations top official to Libya says he cannot be optimistic about the country, describing the situation on the ground as dominated by chaos, increased violence and instability. You can find all of those stories and more on our Newsroom Facebook page or visit our SABC website at www.sabc.co.za/news. Let's take a break here in Newsroom. You don't go anywhere.
One thing to say we are prepared to die for freedom. It's another to know that you have taken a course of action, which means almost certainly that you will die in the course of that struggle.
The idea of meth getting in the hands of the enemy was unthought of.
And in warfare, well, somebody has got to die.
Welcome back. You're watching Newsroom on SABC News. Let's just have a look at the stories making headlines today. Police have confirmed that more than 100 people have been arrested in Thembekile, south of Johannesburg this morning. It's believed that more than 80 of those arrested are illegal immigrants. The informal settlement has been identified by police as a hotspot for violent criminal activity. The raid is expected to continue into the afternoon. The High Court in Pretoria is expected to rule on a case of assisted suicide today. The court will most likely give a ruling on whether a doctor can be prosecuted if he assists a patient to die. Robin Sandstrom Ford is asking the Pretoria High Court to help him end his life by euthanasia or assisted suicide by absolving the doctor who assists him to die for criminal or civil prosecution. Sandstrom Ford is suffering from terminal prostate cancer. And a South African couple trapped in Nepal could soon be brought to safety. Aid organisation Gift of the Givers will make arrangements today for a helicopter to rescue the 2 South Africans. 30 South African humanitarian workers are assisting in the massive international relief operation in Nepal. Remember, you can find all of those stories on our Newsroom Facebook page. Just search for Newsroom. You can also follow us on Twitter at SABC Newsroom. Sam, over to you.
Thanks, Anine. Now, South Africans have been invited to embrace their dreams. The Make Things That Really Matter Happen campaign that forms part of the Nedbank Cup has started identifying people who all stand a chance of winning a share of 4 million to make their unique dreams come true. Can you imagine? Along with making things happen, Nedbank's football fan fashion campaign has also kicked off. And joining us now to tell us more is marketing executive for retail and business at Nedbank, Vanessa Singh, and a student who will be designing for one of the teams. She goes by the name of Pilisiwe Mdunge. Ladies, thank you very much for joining us here on Newsroom. Vanessa, let's start with you. Why has Nedbank decided to embark and enable South Africans in this way?
You know, the Nedbank Cup is the cup of dreams. So the things that really matter, the campaign around things that really matter, was a natural extension. And we made South African football unknowns. So ordinary people from communities can participate in, so there's 2 elements. We started off with 2 elements of the cup and it evolved. We first started up with the FA Cup equivalent the South African FA Cup equivalent. So relatively unknown teams can participate against the professional leagues, the teams in the league. And that gave them the opportunity to then showcase, and some of them were chosen to play for Bafana Bafana. So the cup had achieved quite a lot. We then went and we started searching for talent, people who ordinarily would not even make it to even the smaller teams. And when we started the Kiona team search, we found some amazing talent, like Sydney Masana. And he amazing story. He now plays for Free State Stars. He was not only chosen to play in the Kiona team, but he was also the captain of the Kiona team. Free State Stars saw him, and he is the striker there. So amazing stuff there.
You're also making other dreams happening. You're allowing 4 million to be shared in a very unique way. Yes. Talk to me about that competition.
Yeah, you know, well, soccer is about, we're a soccer-loving nation, but not everybody can participate in soccer, and we want to make more people's dreams come true. So what we ask South Africans to do is, we'll give you a share of 4 million. You tell us whatever your dream is, and sometimes you have these dreams, but making it a reality is always problematic. And I must tell you, we have been so amazed. We are so humbled by the dreams that we get every day. There's hundreds of thousands of South Africans who are pouring their hearts out to us at Nedbank.
Can you share with us what are some of those dreams?
You know, there's so many South Africans, even though they don't have things for themselves, they want to give for good causes.
Wow.
I see people wanting to contribute to children's homes, to old age homes, to refurbishing schools, things, and some other basic things like, I want to fix my fence so that I feel safe in my home. I want to complete my education. It's just
There's some
so
amazing
humbling.
stuff.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the football fan fashion campaign very quickly. Tell us more about that.
You know, soccer is about passion and creativity. And for us, it was a natural extension. And we started this in 2013. We've got some amazing fashion designers in South Africa. And it would be remiss of us not to include them and think holistically about how we can bring Nedbank Cup to life.
Let's bring one of our students in here. So you hear that we're going to partner fashion with football. What is the first thing that comes to your mind, Lisiwe?
It's just joy, it's laughter. It's just that moment of being in a stadium where else like you can just showcase your outfit there.
How do you translate that so that it makes sense? Because I think, I don't know what the mandate is. It's still got to be wearable. It's got to be at the height of fashion, whatever your terminology is. I'm not a fashionista. But how do you then begin to interpret what this mandate is? It's football fashion. You've got to create something that resonates with everybody. Or do you just create something that you like and hopefully the judges will enjoy it?
No, actually look at how the fans react in the stadiums, and also look at how they behave when they're there. So like obviously we're all moving there, we all want to have fun, we all want laughter there. So we design something that will accommodate all of that.
Which team have you been paired with?
I've been paired with Mamelodi Sundowns.
Your eyes go big when you say Mamelodi Sundowns. I mean, look, they lost to Kaizer Chiefs yesterday,
No.
so I'm not 100% sure how fashion forward they are this morning. But talk to me about just how you got to hear of this competition, how you wanted to be part of this competition.
It was a very long process, but worth it. It started at school in UJ, where we were selected as 12 fashion designer students, and then from the 12, we had a panel from judges, which are David Hlale, and our HOD, which is theirs, and also the Sunday Time.
What's the next step in the process?
Now we're designing 3 outfits. We're dressing our fan, and also we're dressing a model. I'll be making my garment and also my designer the garment, but he's mentoring me.
It's stressful.
It is stressful, but it's worth it.
Talk to me about the extension related to football. We've always seen fashion with horse racing and other events like polo and stuff. What are we saying about soccer finally? What is happening to soccer that is migrating into these other platforms?
Yeah, soccer's evolving. And if you look at the people that go to the stadium, if you look at the soccer wear, it is so beautiful. The headgear, the T-shirts, And so soccer traditionally have been very soccer-like gear. And we see soccer evolving. If you look at the females that go to soccer, they dress to the nines. And so how do we make soccer and fashion come together? They're all creative elements.
It would be interesting to see people dress up, really dress up for soccer. What are the things that you've got to remember, Pelisiwe, when you're designing a dress? It's not a traditional fashion. I don't want to. It's not a traditional runway thing that you're designing for. This is with an aim in mind, is to win a competition. Does it change the way you kind of interpret and design fashion, or is it still at the end of the day a dress or a suit or whatever you're putting together?
No, like for now, I'm focusing on sundowns because I'm a fan now. So I'm focusing on sundowns. I'm also trying to put elements of sundowns in my design. So yeah.
Sounds like a. When are we going to see all these things, Vanessa?
So the competition will, the finale of the 16 students paired with 16 good designers in South Africa. The finale happens on the day before the Cup final, which is the 15th of May. The Nedbank Cup final is on the 16th of May, this year in PE for the first time.
Wow.
So really awesome feeling to be in PE with our finals. So let's see.
Some stressful times. Okay, we're leaving it there. It's the marketing executive for retail and business at Nedbank, Vanessa Singh, and one of the design students who's designing for Mamelodi Sundowns, Pelisiwe Mdunge. Well, we're going to wait and see. Now let's take a look at what you say on the social media pages. Please remember to send us your views on Twitter at SABC Newsroom. This is from Natemba Maduma, our very own here at SABC, saying happy at International Jazz Day, make it count. We did start the program off by saying it is International Jazz Day. This is from Afroization, who says it can't be hashtag International Jazz Day without some of this. Hashtag NP Miles Davis, so what? Then Irene Gelente says, I usually love to celebrate hashtag International Jazz Day, but today I can't. I can't stop thinking about the hashtag injustice and hashtag Freddie Gray at BMO. Then Frederick Smith says, happy hashtag International Jazz Day. Those are the members of the Mkuzwana Ensemble. They joined us here in studio when we started the program this morning. Today is International Jazz Day, and each year many talented musicians, teachers and enthusiasts unite across the globe to celebrate the history and appreciation for this international art form. Joining us in studio today is Mkuzwana Ensemble and their founder of the band, Viwe Mkuzwana. So thank you very much for joining us here in Newsroom. What does jazz mean to you? Because I think so many people have a different relationship with jazz, and the fact that it's celebrated internationally talks that there's a massive appreciation for it. But personally, what does it mean to you?
Just to me, I think jazz is life, you know. I think it's the beginning of, for instance, it's the beginning of other genres altogether, you know, hip-hop and all this R&B, they come from jazz. So it's a foundation. It's something that, you know, that cannot be so exclusive and classy and rich in this culture, you know. Yeah. And that's jazz to me.
The fact that it's celebrated internationally, what does that do for the art form?
Actually, it's great that it is. Like I'm saying, by keeping jazz alive, we're keeping the whole music industry alive. Because like when you start, you go through classical and then you go to jazz, explore jazz, then you can then transform and then you do your your popular or commercial music today. But the thing is, jazz is like there. So it should be celebrated with the young ones that are coming. They should be introduced to jazz, and then we can have more quality music in the future.
Is enough being done around jazz music? Because I've been part of this conversation where people say, well, there isn't enough jazz platforms, but yet we've got massive music festivals that accommodate jazz. You've got the Nedbank Jazz of Joy, you've got the Cape Town International Jazz Festival. You've got just so many of these different things. Now you've got venues like Orbit in downtown Johannesburg that's open, and there are these other little clusters all over the place. And yet we're still talking about jazz not having enough venues, not enough being done for jazz artists. How do we change that conversation?
Yeah, I think actually it will probably have to start with us jazz musicians, you know, by also educating the public, you know, and sell it, you know. And like I said earlier, jazz is such like exclusive form, and sometimes we also keep it exclusive, and then we tend to detach from people. But I think it starts with us, but also media would help to do stuff like this all the time, you know, and bring it there, you know.
You're a young person. What attracted you to jazz? How do we get other youngsters involved in jazz or would appreciate jazz?
I think, well, we listen, you know. We go on the streets, they play jazz, and then we listen, and then whatever you do, you go to school, there's jazz, and then actually it's just all around us, and then, you know, all we do is just listen, and then jazz is just there around us.
Okay, founding member of the Mkuzwana Ensemble, Viwe Mkuzwana, talking to us about today, which is International Jazz Day, and the appreciation for jazz music. That's how we come to the end. Newsroom is broadcast live from our studios in Auckland Park, Johannesburg, every weekday morning between 9 and 10 a.m. The show repeats at 2 in the afternoon with a rebroadcast at 5 a.m. the following day. We also stream live on YouTube at that time with the show available on demand on our YouTube channel. This is SABC News. You've been watching Newsroom. We love it in the morning. Say no to xenophobia.
Of Africa